Hey guys, this is CeeCeeG. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time visiting, please make sure you hit the like button and make sure you subscribe. October is Domestic Violence Month, and if you hadn't had a chance to watch my video about my experiences dealing with my ex-husband, make sure you go back and watch it. It's the day I took my power back. You can look it up. It's purple. And I just want to talk about the power and control wheel. And there's different things that kind of talk about what, an abuser does and characteristics and things. So I'm going to speak based off of my own personal experience. So we'll just take one at a time. Okay. The first one is using coercion and threats. Making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her or him, threatening to leave her or to commit suicide, to report her to welfare, making her drop charges, making her do illegal things. Now, in my case, I wasn't doing nothing illegal. He would sometimes try to carry out like he's going to like hit me, or like he's going to try to take our daughter away. As far as threatening to leave, I think because he also had committed adultery as well. So it wasn't so much like he was saying it, but I caught like a woman leaving messages on his phone and things like that. So it was a lot more to this whole situation. So I didn't disclose every little detail of what happened to me, but just enough for you to get the gist. So yeah, but far as since making her drop charges, well, I know after I had left and went into the shelter, because he put us out basically, and I went to the shelter, and I had filed for child support, and he had came by the church one day as we were having Bible study, knocking on the door, and so I had to go outside, but like my parents was right there, they was watching the whole time, and he was like, well, you filed child support on me, blah blah blah, and I knew that I would not get the money that I needed to raise our daughter. And so I took him to child support because she needed things, and I can't do it all by myself. I didn't make her by myself. So like he was trying to make me stop the child support, and then he got mad because I took him to child support. And so that's his problem. I mean, I didn't raise this child by myself. Let me back it up. I did raise her by myself, but he really wasn't participating in her upbringing, and I never kept her away from him. And so, but we would have to have like everything tightly done because I didn't trust him, and we didn't have like a child like custody order. It was basically like co-parenting. So yeah, but we kept a tight thing on this whole situation. I had my family and my friends support through all of that, but yeah. So the next thing is, it says using economic abuse. It says preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, been there, done that, giving her an allowance, had that, taking money or not letting her know about or have access to family income. And so at the time when I was married to him, I wasn't working. I had worked in the past, but I had some health issues that came up and that permitted me not to work. And so I was trying to get my disability at the time. And like he would, he would go to work, he would, bring the check home, but it wasn't like he was putting it in my hands to, do what I needed to do. He would just give me enough to do, or not enough. Really, I would have to figure out how to stretch that little bit of money. And I didn't even use it on myself. I used it on our daughter. So whatever I got, I had to stretch those dollars. I had to get her food, baby food, diapers, and it could be like maybe I'm gonna say about maybe $100. It depends. It depends. Like 100. It could be 80. It could be anything. You know how much diapers and stuff cost. How much wipes cost. All that baby stuff. Baby food is expensive and everything, and so I didn't have to really purchase her milk at the time because I had, WIC back then. And so WIC would give me vouchers to get, formula and everything. And so, yeah, so it says not letting her know about or have access to family income. So I didn't have access to it at all because he was the one going out to work every day. I was at home. I was keeping the house. I was cleaning, cooking, taking care of our daughter and raising our daughter and things. But I didn't, because I didn't drive. So because of my, my vision, and some of you all know about my vision that have been with me for quite some time, that, really, really low vision. And even though I had my eyes corrected, I'm still having some challenges because of the certain medication I was taking. Just really kind of blurred me a little bit here. So, but anyway, but yeah. So I just didn't have access to it. And then like, because we lived in this particular state and he would work outside of state because that was where his job was, like an hour away from where we lived at. And so he would be gone for a great portion of the day because he did like armed security guard work. So I was home, so it wasn't like I could just jump up and just go somewhere. Like I didn't have a car, I didn't have transportation. He drove, but I didn't drive. So a lot of times when he wasn't home, I would have my mom or my dad will come and get me or whatever. And we'll go grocery shopping when when my mom had to go grocery shopping, I would go to grocery shopping and things. So yeah. Okay, so the next one is using male privilege. It says treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the child. Okay, master of the castle, being the one to define men's and women's roles. Okay, and I did feel like a servant because like I was constantly going. Like when we moved into that house, a lot of that stuff was because I had my own place before we got married. And we bring everything in, and basically, like, I was just putting everything away. I basically put everything away. I mean, even though he was at work and stuff, like, he didn't do that much. He might have moved some furniture, but most of that work, I did it. I did it all on my own. He said, like, making the big decisions. Now, mind you, back then, he had bought a house. Now, when you married, you put your spouse and yourself on, the deed of this house. But no, Mr. Big Money Bags, it was like I was sitting there and they didn't even had nothing to do with me at the table. It was all him because he was all in his glory and everything. But in the long run, I'm glad I didn't have my name on it because the house went into foreclosure. Yeah, I was gone by then, but the house went into foreclosure. And I remember them sending me some information if I wanted to like continue the payments on the house. I could if I wanted to. And it was a beautiful house. It was like a city house, but it was one of those row homes, those really beautiful row homes. And it had like 3 floors and a basement and those pretty shiny wooden banisters and The floor all was wood. It was a beautiful house. And at the time, like when I was there, we had two kitchens in the house. There was one upstairs off my daughter's room, and then there was one, of course, downstairs, and we had like maybe a couple bathrooms in there. It was a nice house, but it took a lot of cleaning, honey. It was a lot of cleaning. And so yeah, but it was a lot of work, and I had to clean. I had to use that Murphy's wood oil soap to clean, the floors, and that's like going from the top of the banister all the way down to the steps and everything. So yeah. The next thing is using children. It says making her feel guilty about the children, or using the children to relay messages, or using visitation to harass her, threatening to take the children away. Well, far as this, like anytime we would get into like an altercation, um, he would pick her up as though it's daddy and Michaela against mommy, and he was trying to like separate us, like bad mommy. He did them kind of shenanigans, and like put my daughter in the middle. She was young, she was a little girl, she didn't understand what was going on, and that used to burn me up so much. And in the while, I'm in here, I'm cooking and cleaning and washing the clothes and taking care of the household and things. And there was times that he would just go off like at the drop of a hat. I just felt like I was walking around on eggshells all the time, and I did my best to take care of the household and everything. And I just remember like one Thanksgiving, like we had like all his family over for Thanksgiving. Like it was a big family Thanksgiving. I think about 40 people came over that day, and I was cooking upstairs and downstairs. And I didn't even like get a chance to change my clothes. I was just running between, and we had like tables and chairs, and I cooked so much food, and some of the family that he had like was vegan, so I had to make sure that we had food for them. I made like stuffed salmon with crab meat and all that. I mean, it was good, but it was a lot of work, and I was just exhausted, and yeah. But he liked to try to like showboat, like he always had it going on and stuff like that. So yeah, but that was, one of the things that he did that annoyed me. Okay, so it says minimizing, denying, and blaming. Okay. It says making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, shifting responsibility for abusive behavior, saying she caused it. Well, one thing he used to say was like, oh, you know how I can get. That's no excuse for you to treat me, this type of way. You know how I can get. Like, well, if it happens, you know how I can get. No, that's not it. Or like, I remember a couple times he would say, oh, I'm the man of this house. I'm the man of this house. Why do you need to make an announcement that you're the man of this house if you didn't feel like you were the man? Like, why did you have to make a public announcement? Like, as you trying to convince yourself. Okay, and saying the abuse didn't happen, or like, shifting responsibility. Yeah, he did that. Saying like it was me, he didn't take responsibilities for his actions, or like they have, like most time, like when you're in an abusive relationship, there's like an altercation, then I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I promise I'm not going to do it again. Then it's the honeymoon phase, and it's just a cycle. It's a constant cycle. And I just got fed up. I got fed up, and I just refused to be raising my daughter in that type of environment. And I had respect for myself. I'm not going to let nobody mistreat me or treat me any type of way. I'm not having it. Okay. So the next one is using isolation. It says controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, what she reads, where she goes, limiting her outside involvement, using jealousy to justify actions. And yes, all right, so like with him, all right, so his mom had him when she was a like teenager back in them days, back. And now between my ex-husband and I, there was a 14-year difference. He was 14 years older than me. So what he did was like, he was like, oh, your parents are always trying to get in our business, blah, blah, blah. And he would try to like isolate me from my family. See, I have a strong knit. I'm strong knit when it comes to my parents. You know, even when my father was alive, my brother was alive, like he would try to, you know, push me, have me push my parents away, you know, and he didn't want to talk about certain things around them and this and that. And I believe that he was jealous because he didn't have the relationship that I had with my own parents. And I think he was jealous. You know, he was jealous of that. Using emotional abuse. It says putting her down, making her feel bad about herself, calling her names, making her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, making her feel guilty. Um, One thing I didn't like about him is that he had a wandering eye problem, which a lot of you men do, so I'm going to put it out there anyway. But he had a wandering eye, and I could just be with him, and he's like lusting after women right in my face. And then I would pull him up, and he was like, I wasn't looking. Yes, you were. And there was a particular situation, like with my best friend, because it was her and her coworker, and they went on lunch break, and he had approached her. She said she felt something behind her, but she didn't know who it was. Somebody approached her. It was this too close for comfort. And my best friend is a very strong woman. She will flip you upside down. Like she don't play that. And she like basically body slammed him right in the parking lot. And she told me about that. That it was very inappropriate how he came up on top of that close. And she didn't know if somebody was trying to rob her or anything. And so, yeah, so she body slammed his behind down on the floor. And, I just thought that was disrespectful. And then, like, I remember one time, like, it was in the summertime and it was real, real hot in the house and the air conditioning wasn't blowing right. Now, mind you, like, the ex, he knew a couple, like, famous people. He just knew people because he likes to sing and stuff like that. And he went, instead of inviting me to go with him, oh no. So he knows Sade. Like they went to school together, the singer. And so he went on to go to her shindig or get together, and he didn't even come home. So I left the house. My mom was like, well, we're going to take you out of here because it's too hot in here and the air conditioning's not working. And so we stayed with my mom and everything. And so, like, yeah. And then, like, I know he also knows Queen Latifah, too, because they grew up around each other, too. So, yeah. But anyway, so he was hanging out with them, having a good old time, doing God knows what. And so that like really hurt my feelings. But he was a narcissist. And a lot of times they try to pump themselves up like they're God's gift to the world. And but it took some time for me to realize that you don't treat the ones that you love the way you do, and that he really didn't care for me, because if he did, he wouldn't do the things he did to me. And you know how they say hurt people hurt people. Well, he was hurt people. But after that, like once he threw me and my daughter out in the street, like that was it for me. That was it. told me to get the F out of his house because he was the man of the house. And I dealt with a lot of rage. And it was a lot of yelling and, trying to manipulate and make me feel like I'm the one that's the problem. And I do recall, like, one time me talking to his mom, and I told her what was going on, and she called it out. She said, well, that's emotional abuse, but at the same time, that was still her son. You know what I'm saying? So it's a thin line, So, but yeah, but just going through that process of being out of that environment and having to rebuild my life, it was difficult. It was very hard and challenging. And then I want to do this last one. It says using intimidation. It says making her afraid by looks, actions, gestures, smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, displaying weapons. Okay, so let's see. Afraid by looks. Yeah, he did that. He would get like mad, or he had this demonic look on his face. Or now because he was an armed security guard, now he had a weapon in the home. And sometimes he would pull it out. He's up there looking at it, playing with it, spinning the thing, and I almost kind of took me back because I'm like, why is he messing with this? He's only supposed to pull this thing out when he has to go to work. But to me, I felt like he was trying to send me a message, like trying to threaten me, but without its indirects, you know what I'm saying? Using, the gun and pulling out, looking at it, pointing it and all that. That's like mind control, like mind games. Nobody got time for that. And so, like, that made me feel uneasy at times too, because I never know if he would get mad enough that he might use it. So that was one of the reasons why, like, I was like, I had to get out. Like, I could have got a PFA, but because of the fact that I was trying to get some financial help from him to raise our daughter, and the fact that I was in a safe place where he didn't have access to me, because I stayed at the shelter and they had double, triple security up in there. So you couldn't just walk up in there and be causing no ruckus, because they'll trap you right in the door and call the police. And so, like, staying in the shelter, that was a whole experience. And like I told you in the video, it was just very hard to do, because you're used to being in an environment in your home and, sleeping in your own bed, not sleeping in no bunk bed. And my daughter not wanting to sleep at the top. And here I am. I'm 6'2", 3/4 inches. Imagine, And I was a little thinner back then, but still, like, having my daughter sleeping next to me. She was like 4 or 5 years old back then, and sleeping on the inside. And we slept like that until I moved into the Bridge Women's program, and they had furnished apartments. All you needed was your clothing. Basically, everything was there, beds, everything. You just had to get, your own sheets and blankets and stuff. But, God got me through it. And it was a difficult time in my life. But the Lord he just worked on me. And he had to, minister to me, because I was broken, I had low self-esteem, didn't get self-worth, was down, and, and I had to, thank God for his word, because I had to read my Bible and build myself up in the Lord. And, I know who I am in Christ Jesus. And I had to just put all that stuff down and begin the healing process. I know that God has a plan and a purpose for my life. And so one of the things that is really dear to me is domestic violence. And that's why I wanted to highlight it this year, because I never really talked about it. And to you all, you're my audience, but it's really dear to my heart that no matter what, Even men get abused. And I'm not going to just male bash men, because yeah, it does happen. Men abuse women a lot. But there are men who get abused as well. And two wrongs don't make it right. So, a man, some women can be very nasty. They are very vindictive and can trap a man and make a man feel like he's worth nothing. And if that's you, you need to, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you don't treat people like that. Versus a man, you don't disrespect a woman, belittle her, talk down to her or anything, or hurt her, verbally abuse her, physically abuse her. You need help yourself. So, in closing, I just want to thank you guys for putting up with this domestic violence. This is Domestic Violence Month, and I will periodically post things to the end of October, and then we'll get back to our regular scheduled videos. But I'm still doing regular videos in between, but I just wanted to talk about that, because, and if you're in a situation like that, they do have, it's called the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And you can call that number. It's 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 7233. 1-800-799-SAFE. You can always call no matter where you are within the United States. They do have information pertaining to your area and location and resources that you can go to get help. You do not have to stay in that situation at all. So I want to thank you all for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on your post notifications. Make sure you share the video, and I'll see you on the next video. God bless. Peace.